Welcome back. Welcome back. Listen, you guys, I have a unique episode for you, and this one is going to be a reaction to this great channel called Law and Crime. As you guys know, this is Law and Crime Sidebar. They cover a lot of high-profile cases that we love to learn about. And listen, this episode that they did specifically was about Luigi Mangione. So I thought it was very interesting. Decided this is actually a good video to react to. Why? Because they had a guest attorney come on and talk about the case, giving his perspective as an attorney from Pennsylvania. And I think a once prosecutor or once a defense attorney, he is giving his perspective on the case, especially in reference to Luigi's attorney in Pennsylvania and what he is trying to do in reference to suppressing the evidence. You guys remember my video that I just put out recently discussing the ID and all the intricate details regarding that. In this particular case, you guys, I want to give you a different perspective. The perspective from an actual officer, an actual investigator. Listen, attorneys have a unique skill set. Officers have a unique skill set. Well, the difference comes where the police actually enforce the law, whereas the attorneys argue the law. And when we mirror these two together, we have a very interesting discussion. So I'm going to give you my thoughts from an officer and an investigator's perspective, countering a lot of the statements that this attorney made. And he said some things that were really troubling. I mean, the title of this video within itself was very interesting, right? Luigi's attorney, he's begging, right? This is not the case. He's demanding that this evidence gets suppressed. And why is that? Well, let's hear it from the guest attorney.
Let me bring on criminal defense attorney and former Pennsylvania prosecutor, Matthew Mangino. Now, I promise we didn't book Matthew because of the names, Matthew Mangino talking about Luigi Mangione, but I don't know, added bonus. But thanks so much for coming on, Matthew. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So first question for you, before we even get into the specific details, generally speaking, if we are talking big picture, if a criminal defendant is successful in saying and arguing that his initial search and seizure rights were violated in one state and it is connected to the prosecution of him in another state, so you're talking about evidence that was collected that was then used in a different case, does that mean that the charges in the other state fall apart? In other words, if Dickey is successful here, could it affect Mangione's prosecution in New York on a state or federal level?
I don't think, Jesse, that it would directly affect it. Now, certainly, if he makes a successful argument in Pennsylvania, obviously he has some reasons for being successful. He has some case law that supports what his position is, but it doesn't automatically suppress those matters in state court in New York or in federal court in New York. So you know, it's kind of a test run in Pennsylvania whether or not he can make a successful argument with regard to suppression.
Let me ask you this. If he has a successful argument, can his New York attorney, Karen Freeman-Agnifilo, piggyback that, make the same argument, same filing in New York and be successful there?
Well, yeah, I mean, they could make the same argument, but there would be the possibility that he could be successful in Pennsylvania but not successful in New York.
My issue with this attorney is that he comes off extremely disingenuous, right? You know, when you hear him discussing this, you hear the bias throughout this interview. And listen, I'm not saying he's not a good attorney. I don't know how well he's practiced. I'm just basing it off of these conversations that I'm hearing on this interview. What I have an issue with is the questions asked. If his rights are violated, Fourth Amendment rights are violated here in Pennsylvania, and the evidence collected during this investigation, will that also cause the evidence to be suppressed in New York? Meaning he can't use the gun, he can't use the manifesto, he can't use the ID. Anything that was acquired in Pennsylvania, if collected illegally, can it also be suppressed in New York? You guys, the answer is yes. I don't know what this attorney's talking about. He said a lot of nothing, right? He gave an answer to a question that wasn't asked. He kind of danced around it, in my opinion. I heard a little bias out of this attorney, because here's the idea. The idea is that you're there to give an honest approach to the actual situation. I heard bias. Maybe I'm thinking too much, maybe. But this is the reality, you guys. We have what we call the exclusionary rule. Now, there are some caveats to it, but the idea of the exclusionary rule means that if an officer violates your Fourth Amendment rights. And anything that was recovered during that, after that violation, the fruit of the poisonous tree, what does it mean? You can't use it. It's suppressed. Now, you might have a judge who might still want to see it through. There's always that small percentage. So the reality is, yes, it's possible, but it's highly unlikely. This is a high profile case, you guys, so this is going to get a lot of attention. The judge will be under a lot of pressure to try to get as much of this evidence brought in. It depends on how well the attorney, the defense attorney, makes the argument about this thing being excluded. Was his rights truly violated? Can you prove it? This is what it all comes down to. So yes, you guys, it can be suppressed. I think I was expecting more of a direct answer from him. It doesn't seem like we got it, but that's okay, because there is a caveat to the exclusionary rule. This is the part that gets me the most, right? I feel like you're enjoying this video, but then I'm not feeling the like. I feel like you didn't like the video yet. Even though you're having a good time and you're liking this information, I feel like you just didn't hit the like. And if that's you, I'm not saying you got to do it. I'm not saying you got to do it. Maybe you want to hit the down button. You want to hit the dislike. I respect that too. Maybe you want to write a comment. Either or, I appreciate them all. Thank you for watching. Quick story. Let me give you an example of what this looks like, you guys. All right. Back in my early days, I remember this case. I pull a guy over for expired tag. All right. He's looking real nervous. He's constantly moving around inside the car. I walk up to the vehicle. I tell him why he's being stopped. I ask for his ID. He gives me the ID. Officer, yeah, listen, officer, I'm in a hurry and so forth and so on. He's giving me this long story. I said, cool, don't worry about it. I'm walking back to the car. Something about it wasn't right. He was extremely nervous. I'm sitting in the car. I'm looking at him. He's looking at me. He's constantly moving around. I was like, nah, let me get him out the car just in case to be on the safe side. Went ahead and asked my backup to be en route just in case. I go back up to the car. I say, hey, listen, man. I said, is your license good, everything? Nah, my license is good. It's out of New York, by the way. I said, listen, man, I need you to just come out, step out the car. You don't have any weapons on you? Nah, no weapons, nothing, officer. I said, cool, get out the car for me. You guys, he's sweating, his heart's beating. Cool, no worries. I pat him down, no weapons. But I get to his pocket, and I touch his pocket, and I feel a bulge in his pocket. Side pocket, you guys. And something about it wasn't right. And I said, you know what? I know by law I can't reach in his pockets. So I asked him, hey, can you go ahead and just pull your pockets inside out for me? He goes in, he's shaking, he pulls his pocket out real quick. As he's pulling his pocket out, all of a sudden I see this white bag fly out his pocket. And you guys, it was like a nice, okay, it was a nice little half a sandwich bag. Falls out his pocket, it hits the ground. And he's just looking at me like this. I'm looking, I was like, sir, that white bag just fell out your pocket. What is that? He said, what? And I said, that right there? I said, yeah. Officer, I don't know what that wasn't in my pocket. You guys, I kid you not, I literally saw it fall out of his pocket. I think he was trying to chuck it further. I think I wouldn't see it, but it fell on the floor, right? Really, really, really bad. I said, okay. Well, this is what I'm gonna do, guy. All right, I need you to, listen, you're not in any trouble, but I'm gonna have to detain you just for a little bit for further investigation. Listen, how this game works, you guys, is based on my knowledge, my training and experience. I have a reason to believe that could be some of that Lindsay Lohan, okay? Some of that soft white, okay? A little bit of that Snow White, whatever you want to call it. I think it might be cocaine. Okay, no worries. I go ahead and detain him. I put him in handcuffs. I tell him that he's being detained and he's not under arrest. He's being detained for further investigation. You guys, I take the bag, I go and test it with a drug kit, and believe it or not, turned out to be cocaine. Good quality cocaine at that. Well, I go back to him and say, hey, listen, sir, based on this that I found on you, I'm gonna have to place you on arrest for possession of drugs. He's like, but it's not mine, officer. These weren't even my pants. I said, I understand. Well, I go and run his driver's license. He comes back wanted for robbery and drug possession. He's going to jail, you guys. I go and search the car. Guess what? I found a gun and I found more drugs. So now we're off to the jail. His car is impounded, so forth and so on. Well, So fast forward, you guys, we go to court and he hires a good attorney. His attorney says, listen, I want all the drugs suppressed. Why? Because your officer unlawfully violated my client's rights, his Fourth Amendment rights. He made him go in his pockets and pull the contents out. And then through that, he went and searched the car unlawfully because he arrested him for drug possession. And then he went inside his car and searched and found more drugs. We want all that suppressed. We want all the charges dropped. And I was like, what? That sounds crazy. But the idea was that he will stop for an expired tag. That's it. I'm supposed to just write him a ticket. And through that, I pat him down for weapons, which I'm allowed to do. But then I gave him an order that his attorney said was unlawful for him to empty out his pockets, basically commanding him to do something that I wasn't allowed to do. There was no safety concern. The command was unnecessary and it was infringing on his rights. Well, the prosecutor ended up saying, well, Judge, hold on one second. The suspect was wanted out of New York. Your Honor, he was going to go to jail anyways. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what you call inevitable discovery. The drugs were going to be located regardless if I violated his rights or not. He was still going to go to jail because I pulled him over for a legitimate reason, the expired tag. I have to run his driver's license. By running that driver's license, he was going to be arrested after the warrant came out active. I was going to search the car and his person. The drugs and the guns were going to be located regardless of what happened. You guys, that is inevitable discovery. So in this situation with Luigi, you guys, inevitable discovery can be a real thing. So I was shocked that the attorney didn't actually bring that up. Okay, the idea that they want to suppress the evidence, but the possibility that they can argue that, hey, Luigi would have been arrested anyways, we would have found this anyways, and therefore we are writing a motion to say, nah, let's keep it. All right, we want to keep it.